going on, guys? It's Tommy here from Saleslucky.com, and I've got a book with me that I'll tell you about in a moment. But today's topic is about how I got my start in sales in a frat house. So you probably didn't expect that to be the topic of the video here today, but it's true. So I'll explain what I mean by that. So in my third year in college at UC San Diego, I was in a frat, and me and some buddies moved into a house. It wasn't a huge frat house, but it was just a single family home that we had rented out for all intensive purposes of throwing as many poppin' parties as possible that year. And we did. And, but the thing was, I remember the first night that we broke in the house, we invited people over and got some music playing and whatnot. And the drinks flowing. And next thing you know, we heard a knock on the door. Boom, boom, boom. And went to the door, and it was our neighbors. So we neighbors on each side. One on one side of the house, they were completely chill, had no problems with us having parties. On the other side was this elderly couple that had lived there for decades, and they wanted no part in having young college kids move in next to them to throw parties. So, and take a step back. This was also around the time in my life where I had always felt pain around my interpersonal communication and influence skills growing up. And this, for some reason, this was around the time where I decided to do something about it and decided that, hey, this needed to be handled, okay? I needed to improve in this area. I needed to take care of it. So I got the great idea to use this as an example where I can work on and improve my influence and communication skills. So what I decided to do was I got a copy of this book. So How to Win Friends and Influence People. This was my first sales book that I read. And what I would literally do during that third year of college was I would go through and read this book chapter by chapter. And on nights where we would throw parties, I would go over to a neighbor's house, knock on their door, and talk to them. I'd practice the principles described in that book. I'd talk to them. I'd get to know them. And every time when we threw a party, they would still, I gave them my number, and I got them to agree to give me a call instead of calling the cops on us, okay? So every time we were throwing a party, I mean like pretty much every single time, they would give me a call and they'd tell me, "Hey Tommy, you guys are too loud. You guys need to shut it down. We're gonna call the cops on you guys." And what I would do is I would say, don't do that. I appreciate you calling me. Why don't I come over and we'll turn the music down a little bit, but let me come over and we'll discuss, and we'll talk about, how we can solve this. So I would go over to their house at night and I would practice these principles that I learned in this book. So some of the principles in this book, it talks about never criticize another person. It talks about don't argue with another person. Give honest and sincere appreciation. Be a good listener. Become genuinely interested in the other person. So I would literally go over to our neighbor's house and just practice these principles. I would listen to them kind of talk about their frustrations and how they were upset at us being loud at night and how her husband had trouble sleeping. I would literally, I would listen, I would pay attention, I would acknowledge and understand what their frustrations and their pain points, and I would agree with them. I wouldn't argue. I would agree with them. I really sought out to understand their point of view and their frustrations. And, I basically just listened and really try to understand them, right? And by doing that, it did a couple things. So one, it kind of diffused the situation because I gave them room and space to just vent. And I genuinely wanted to understand their perspective and their pain points and their challenges and their frustrations. And so that really helped diffuse their situation, their emotions, right? The other part was because I was genuinely listening to understand, I would go back to, my buddy's place and our place, and I would, tell them to turn down the music, and we would in turn be a lot more considerate of them. So long story short, what that ended up doing was it developed this mutual understanding between us, and it allowed us to not only have our parties that we wanted to throw, but it also allowed us to be more understanding of them and turn down our music and be more like aware of their needs, to where they're getting the sleep that they need, and we're not infringing upon what they were looking for and stuff. So it's a true story. So really started working on this aspect of my life, and communication, influence, and interpersonal skills in the frat house, reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the best books ever written on this topic of dealing with people. I'm going through it a second time right now, and I highly recommend you guys pick up this book. It's in the link below. And also, if you guys like this, please share, comment, like, and also check out the blog post in the link here below as well. All right, guys, have a good one.